Have you ever felt completely paralyzed? Even though you know exactly what you should be doing, that feeling of knowing you need to change, act, move on, but it's as if something invisible is holding you by the legs, pulling you back into a dark well called, "I'll do it later." But Mum, what if I told you that what you call laziness doesn't exist the way you think? What if behind that inertia that sinks you every day is an emotional lie that you've been telling yourself for years? Today, I want to introduce you to a method that was born more than 400 years ago in feudal Japan, created by men who couldn't afford to be lazy for even a second, the samurai. They called it Kiojutsu, and in this video, you will understand how this concept can reprogram your mind so that laziness simply no longer has a place in your life. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. This space is a refuge for those looking for more than cheap motivation. This is where you'll find depth, clarity, and real emotional transformation. Now take a deep breath, because we're going to dismantle the most subtle and dangerous lie you've learned to believe about yourself. Chapter 1. The lie we tell ourselves, the true root of laziness. Most people aren't lazy. They're just emotionally exhausted from living a life that doesn't feel like their own. We call laziness what is actually a silent reaction of the body and soul saying, "I don't want to pretend anymore." Do you see? It's not that. You don't want to take action. It's just that what you're trying to do isn't aligned with who you really are. And that's tiring. It's more tiring than any physical effort. It's tiring to live pretending to be motivated, pretending that everything is fine, pretending that that job, that routine, that path still makes sense. Then you wake up, you try to be productive, you try to follow the formula, but a part of you screams inside, "I can't take this anymore." And you call it laziness, but it's pain. Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard said that the greatest despair of a human being is to live a life that is not his own, a life where you are an actor, not an author. And here comes the Japanese concept of Kiojutsu, which we will explore in depth. In the most direct translation, Kyo means illusion and Jutsu means truth. It is the duality between what is real and what is staging. Samurai masters used this idea not only in combat, but also in the way they viewed the world. To them, the greatest mistake was to mistake illusion for truth and to act on that illusion. Have you ever caught yourself saying phrases like, "I'm just like that. I don't have the energy for this right now. One day, I will start." These phrases are not truths. They are layers of kyo, of illusion that we create to protect a deeper pain. The fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, the fear of facing our own greatness. The first step to never feeling lazy again is to stop calling yourself lazy. The name you give to your paralysis shapes your identity, and identity is destiny. If you believe you're lazy, you start living like one. But if you understand that you're just disconnected from your truth, you start looking for it. And that's when everything changes. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why can bear any how." Laziness is often the absence of a why that makes your soul get out of bed. So before you create goals, lists, and habits, you need to face the hardest question. Why am I pretending? What truth am I avoiding? Don't be afraid of the answer. It is the answer that will release your strength. Chapter 2. Kiojutsu, the samurai's teachings of invisible discipline. Before continuing, if this message has touched a nerve deep inside you, if you felt something start to move silently inside you, don't forget to like it now. This is how YouTube understands that this type of content deserves to reach more people who are also fighting in silence against their own paralysis. You could be saving someone with a simple click. Imagine living in a time where your life depended on your ability to act with precision and total presence. No samurai could afford to postpone decisions, to not feel like it, to leave it for tomorrow. They weren't superhuman. They just understood something we've completely forgotten. The mind lies, and so it needs to be trained like a sword. This is where the ancient concept of Kiojutsu, shushu, comes in. In the art of combat, Kyo represented the illusory movement, that gesture made to deceive, distract, confuse the opponent. Jutsu, on the other hand, was the real punch, the truth. The philosophy behind this was profound. The world is made of illusions and mixed truths. Mastery is knowing how to differentiate them. In the warrior's daily life, this translated into something even more powerful: realizing when your own mind is using excuses as disguises. You do it every day, maybe without realizing it. When it says, "Today is not a good day for this. After everything is calmer, I'll start." In the language of the samurai, this is Kyo, illusion, and often it is your own mind that is creating this false movement to escape true action. Jutsu would be the real gesture, the conscious choice, the silent step taken even without desire, without spectacle, without motivation, without an audience. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." The samurai did not wait for inspiration. They trained to act in its absence, because they knew that inspiration comes after movement, not before. This is one of the biggest emotional traps we face today, believing that we can only act when we are in the right mood. This belief is a modern Kyo, a sophisticated illusion masquerading as self-care that actually hides a pattern of self-sabotage. The secret of Kiojutsu is understanding that you can create real action even within illusion. Even when you feel lazy, you can act. Even when you feel afraid, you can speak. Even when you feel insecure, you can move forward, because you don't have to believe everything you feel. Heidegger said that human beings are thrown into the world with the responsibility of choosing their way of being. And what is the way of being of a samurai? It is someone who, even when faced with internal doubt, chooses to act with intention. This has nothing to do with perfection. It has to do with inner honor, with not betraying yourself, with becoming worthy of your own existence. You don't need to wait for motivation anymore. You just need to decide what is Kyo and what is Jutsu within you. Do this every day. Observe your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this true or is it an escape? Each time you choose the real gesture, even a small one, you rebuild your sense of power. And little by little, laziness stops making sense. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the pain you avoid and understand why. Procrastination isn't a lack of willpower, but fear in disguise. Chapter 3. The Truth That Hurts. Why you run away from your own greatness. Before you continue, tell me something in the comments. What is the biggest lie your mind usually tells you when you try to act? This question may seem simple, but the answer can set you free. And by sharing, you not only heal yourself, but you help others to see themselves too. Use the comments as a courage journal. The truth is, most people aren't afraid of failing. They're afraid of becoming everything they always knew they could be, and then they'll have no more excuses. Afraid to be free. Yes, being free is scary, because freedom demands responsibility. It takes all external blame out of the picture. It exposes the choices you avoid. It confronts you with the hardest question there is: if I wasn't scared, what would I do now? Carl Jung said that human beings do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but rather by bringing their inner darkness to consciousness. Laziness, procrastination, paralysis are often just masks of this darkness. You're not lazy. You're running away from your potential, because you know that if you take action, everything will change. And change, even when it's good, is scary. From an early age, you learned that being great is uncomfortable, that shining can provoke envy, that showing strength can attract criticism. So you learned to diminish yourself, to walk in silence, to avoid risks. But there is a part of you that screams. It screams inside every time you betray yourself, every time you say tomorrow but know it's a lie, every time you choose distraction over direction. That voice is your sleeping greatness. The great tragedy of procrastination is not the time you waste. It is the confidence you destroy in yourself. With each "I'll do it later," you teach your subconscious that your words carry no weight, that you are not trustworthy, not even to yourself. And it hurts. It hurts deeply, because deep down you know what you need to do. The painful truth is this: you don't need more planning. You don't need more productivity videos. You don't need more motivational quotes. You need to stop hiding of yourself, of the world, of what you came to be. Nietzsche said, "Become who you are." And becoming who you are requires facing the things you've been avoiding the most. Self-doubt, criticism, failure. But it also requires facing something even more powerful: success. Because it forces you to take ownership of your life. And here's the key: you won't beat procrastination by fighting it. You'll beat procrastination when you embrace your own greatness. It's not about overcoming laziness. It's about stopping running away from your calling. In the next chapter, we'll debunk one of the biggest modern myths, the idea that discipline is a burden, when in fact, it's the purest form of freedom. Chapter 4. Discipline is not pain, it's freedom. How many times have you tried to change, create habits, follow a plan, and halfway through you gave up? Maybe because deep down you believe that discipline is punishment, that being disciplined means living oppressed, without pleasure, without lightness. That discipline is the opposite of freedom. But that belief is one of the biggest emotional lies you've been taught. True discipline doesn't imprison you, it sets you free. Seneca, the great Stoic, said, "To be free is to be master of oneself." And what is discipline if not a continuous act of self-respect, of showing yourself every day that you are worth your effort? The pain is not in the discipline, it is in the self-abandonment, in the guilt that comes when you promise yourself something and don't keep it, in the frustration of seeing yourself standing still while life passes you by. That's what really hurts. It's not waking up early, it's not training, it's not studying, it's betraying yourself. Discipline, when born of truth, does not oppress. It organizes, it aligns your mind, your body, your soul. It's like sheet music for a musician. It limits, yes, but precisely so that the music exists. Life without discipline is noise, it is impulse, it is chaos. Life with discipline is melody. Nietzsche said that human beings must learn to live like a work of art, and no work of art is born by chance. It demands repetition, it demands presence, it demands renunciation, but not renunciation as a sacrifice, renunciation as a lucid choice, choosing not the easiest but the truest. Have you ever noticed how good you feel after you fulfill something you promised yourself? It's not just relief, it's dignity. The discipline gives us this back, the feeling that we are whole, that we can trust ourselves, that we are no longer hostage to the emotional swings of the day. You no longer have to wait until you are well to act. Act, and then you will be well. This is the logic of real discipline. Self-discipline is the bridge between who you are today and who you were born to be. And here's the secret. It's not born of brute force, it's born of love for who you want to become, of love for a life that makes sense, of love for a purpose that goes beyond immediate pleasure. Discipline is freedom because it protects you from yourself. It protects you from the fatigue that comes from disorder, from the guilt that comes from escape, from the emptiness that comes from inertia. And when discipline is guided by truth, by your inner jutsu, it ceases to be an obligation and becomes a ritual. In the next chapter, we'll clearly identify the origin of your inner saboteurs. You'll learn to recognize the false self that paralyzes you every day, and how to unmask it before it wins again. Chapter 5. How to identify the false self that sabotages you every day. If this content is awakening something in you, like it right now, not out of vanity, but because this simple gesture helps YouTube show this video to more people who are also stuck in the cycle of emotional procrastination. You could be offering someone new awareness with just one click. Everyone has two characters inside them. One is silent, observant, deep. He is you, your essence, the part that knows what really matters, that feels even in silence the right path. The other is the false self, a psychological construct that arises from fear, comparison, rejection, and trauma. It pretends to protect you, but in reality, it imprisons you. This false self has many voices, and you already know them. It will go wrong again. Why try if no one will notice? You are not good enough. Leave it for later. Now is not the time. These phrases are not yours. They are echoes of old wounds. They are projections of criticisms that you have heard and believed. They are defense mechanisms that have become emotional habits. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to survive in the world. But the problem starts when we forget that it's just a mask. You start acting like you are that limited, tired, paralyzed version of yourself. And the more you believe this, the less you listen to the voice of your inner truth, the voice of your jutsu. So how do you identify the false self? Stop and observe. If the thought is full of fear and urgency, It is him. The false self is always dramatic. He wants to convince you through panic or immediate comfort. If your thoughts repeat an old pattern, it is him. I always give up halfway through. I can never keep up. These are inherited phrases. They do not come from the present. They come from your history of pain. If thought diminishes your value, it is thought. The false self has no interest in your growth. It just wants to keep things as they are. Epictetus said, "No one is free if he is not master of himself." And to be your own master, you need to learn to interrupt the autopilot of the false self. With presence, with silence, with self-questioning. Every time a paralyzing thought arises, ask, is that true or is it just fear? Is that my voice or the voice of someone who hurt me? Does this thought set me free or does it chain me? You'll be surprised at how many decisions you make every day based on someone you're not even, and that exhausts you, because living as someone who is not you is an immense effort. But the good news is, you can choose to go back to your essence, go back to the true self that, even though hurt, never ceased to exist. Recognizing the false self is the first step to silencing it, and by silencing it, you begin to hear something you may not have heard in years, the voice of your courage. In the next chapter, we'll turn this awareness into action. You'll learn how to build a daily ritual of emotional discipline inspired by the samurai, so you never have to rely on motivation again. Chapter 6. The Modern Warrior's Daily Ritual. How to Never Feel Lazy. Again, before I continue, I want to provoke you with a sincere and perhaps uncomfortable-hearted question. If you continue living exactly as you are, where will you be in 5 years? Answer in the comments. No filter, no mask. This exercise in brutal honesty could be the reality check your future is asking for right now. The truth is, you don't need another miracle. You need a ritual, a set of simple, consistent actions aligned with your truth. Small things, but done every day with intention. This is how a warrior lives, not waiting for good days, but building meaningful days, whether you want to or not. Kiojutsu, at its core, has always been about this, separating the illusory from the essential, training yourself to act from the truth, even when the world or your mind seems like a theater. And your daily ritual needs to be born from this principle. It's not a rigid routine, it's a sacred practice. It's your silent agreement with life. Wake up and remember, today I act as who I am, not as who fear says I am. Here is an example of a minimalist ritual, inspired by the samurai spirit that you can adapt. Conscious breathing when waking up. Before you look at your phone, stop, breathe, remember who you are. Bring the intention of the day. Intentional body movement. It doesn't have to be an hour of training. 5 minutes of stretching and being present in your body is already an act of reconnecting with your strength. Silent writing. Ask yourself, what does the false self want to do today? What would my real self do in its place? Write the answer. Give form to the invisible, real action, even a small one. Pick one thing you've been avoiding and do it, even if you've done it poorly, even if you're afraid, even if you don't feel like it. That's what resets your confidence. Intentional silence at the end of the day. Close your eyes and ask, was I true to myself today? If so, celebrate. If not, embrace the truth and start over tomorrow. This ritual is not about perfection, it is about construction, about living each day as if holding an invisible sword, not to fight the world but our own illusions. Emotional discipline is not rigidity, it is self-love in the form of action. Schopenhauer said that true freedom is not doing what you want, but wanting what is right. And what is right almost always is what we avoid the most. That is why a modern warrior needs practice, solid ground, ritual. You won't wake up every day motivated, but you can wake up every day committed to your truth, to your path, to your calling. Laziness cannot survive where there is clarity and ritual. Now breathe. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the strength that exists within you, even if it is dormant. She didn't leave. She was just waiting for you. The invisible discipline that makes you unshakable. You've made it this far, and that says a lot about your strength, because most people stop in the middle. Most people run away from the truth. Most people give up on themselves without even realizing it, but you chose to face it. You saw that laziness is not the problem, it is the symptom, a symptom of a soul disconnected from its own truth, of a human being who has learned to diminish himself to fit into a life that was never made for him. But today you discovered that it can be different. You have learned that there is an ancient, deep, true path, one that spans centuries and comes to you. Kiojutsu, the art of distinguishing illusion from truth, the invisible discipline that separates who you pretend to be from who you were born to become. Now you have a choice. Either you go back to your usual life, or you decide, once and for all, to break the cycle. And if we're going to break up, let it be for real. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, now is the time. This space is for those who no longer want to live on autopilot. It's for those who are tired of surviving by pretending and want to start living by feeling. Here, every week, you find more than videos. You find mirrors, voices, refuge, truth. Subscribe button and join this community of silent warriors who are rebuilding their lives, inside and out. Starting today, you no longer have to wait for motivation. You have something bigger, clarity, awareness, and a ritual. And that is freedom. Comment below. What will be your first real gesture after watching this video? Let's create a chain of action, courage, and awakening together.